Before he transformed Lamar Jackson into a statistical machine in Baltimore, Todd Monken had a philosophy: adapt to your quarterback or fail. That philosophy didn't just work, it changed careers. Now with Cleveland, Monken is applying that same adaptive system to a very different talent: Shedeur Sanders. Where Jackson relied on raw athleticism, Sanders brings cerebral pre-snap processing, elite footwork, and a polished passing profile that few rookies possess. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. For Monken, this isn't a repeat, it's an evolution. He's not copying his past success. He's improving upon it, this time with a quarterback already fluent in the pro-style mechanics Monken values. This isn't a typical rookie quarterback transition. It's the result of deliberate scouting, multi-year evaluation, and philosophical alignment. Sanders isn't being thrown into a new system. He's stepping into a custom-tailored ecosystem designed by a coach who has already proven he can unlock MVP-level performance. With a ready-made defense and now an intentional offensive nucleus, the Browns are aligning their identity around a quarterback-coach duo years in the making. The whispers are growing louder. What started as a quiet leak is starting to feel like a roadmap, and at the center of it all is Todd Monken, Shedeur Sanders, and a Cleveland Browns franchise trying to do something it hasn't done in decades: get the quarterback position right. Let's not downplay it. Monken's arrival wasn't just another hire. It was a pivot, a calculated, forward-facing move by an organization that's seen more quarterback busts than playoff wins. And according to this video, his hiring came with more than just expectations to fix the offense. It came with a purpose, a name, a plan. That plan? Shedeur Sanders under center in 2026. Not as a backup, not as a project, but as the guy, the face of a new offensive identity, custom-built by one of the NFL's sharpest schematic minds. It's bold, it's unconventional, and it actually makes sense. Because Monken has done this before. Not just win games, but change trajectories. He didn't just work with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. He transformed him, took a quarterback with raw speed and untapped passing potential, and engineered an offense that delivered one of the most efficient seasons in NFL history. 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a 10-to-1 ratio that put Jackson in conversations usually reserved for Brady, Rodgers, Manning. That kind of leap doesn't just happen. It's designed. Or, in Monken's case, customized. Because that's the key to his philosophy: fit over force. Systems that elevate a quarterback's innate strengths instead of demanding conformity. And that's exactly why Shedeur Sanders is being framed as the next cornerstone. Shedeur isn't Lamar. He doesn't need to be. The comparison is functional, not stylistic. While Jackson entered the league with unmatched mobility and questions around his passing ceiling, Sanders brings a different set of tools: elite deep accuracy, refined footwork, advanced progression reads, and a mental clock that's ahead of the curve. The mechanics, already clean. The processing, fast. The ceiling, still rising. That's what Monken sees. Not just a quarterback with talent, but one with the exact attributes his system thrives on. And, crucially, one who doesn't need to be torn down and rebuilt. Let's talk about that draft process. Monken made the call. He wanted Sanders in the building. Not as a starter yet, but as a backup, a developmental piece with a long-term payoff. But Shedeur declined. Not out of ego, but out of belief. He wasn't ready to sit behind anyone. He wanted to compete. And that wasn't seen as a red flag. Monken didn't shut the door. He kept watching, kept evaluating. Because that was never a one-time conversation. It was part of a years-long assessment. Monken doesn't scout for flash. He scouts for growth trajectory, psychological readiness, and fit. He watched Shedeur climb through the college ranks, not just stacking stats, but mastering complexity. Not just leading a team, but leading on purpose, under the unique scrutiny that comes with being Deion Sanders' son. And that part matters. Because most quarterbacks come into the league with 2 learning curves, on-field and off-field. One is physical. The other is about pressure, publicity, discipline. And so many fail not because they can't throw the ball, but because they can't manage the weight of being the guy. Shedeur has already been living under that weight for years. He's had cameras in his face, headlines tied to his name, expectations that few college players ever carry. And through it all, he's played smart, stayed poised, and avoided distraction. That's not just maturity. That's readiness. And Monken sees it as part of the package, not a bonus, but a built-in advantage. This entire narrative reframes Cleveland's quarterback history in a brutal but necessary way. It's not just bad luck. It's been a failure of vision, drafting the wrong players, hiring the wrong coaches, forcing schemes onto skill sets instead of building around them, over and over, reset after reset, panic moves and quick fixes. But this feels different. Because for once, it's not about what went wrong last season. It's about what could go right 2 years from now. Monken is inheriting a quarterback. He's choosing one. He's putting in place a framework designed not to win headlines, but to win over time. A developmental ecosystem that gives Sanders a space to grow without being rushed, while also crafting the offense around exactly what he does well. And let's not ignore the timeline. By setting the target at 2026, the Browns are signaling something they've rarely committed to: patience. They're not trying to force a rookie into the lineup immediately and hoping he survives. They're creating a window, a runway, with the understanding that elite quarterback play isn't born overnight. It's cultivated, coached, protected, and with a defense that's already one of the league's best. Monken doesn't need to win shootouts every week. He can afford to install the offense slowly, layer by layer, build chemistry, develop timing, and let Shedeur ease into the role knowing the team around him won't collapse. That kind of environment is rare, and Monken has worked in one before. In Baltimore, the early Lamar years weren't perfect, but they were structured. Jackson was allowed to learn from mistakes. Monken focused on mechanical refinement, not quick wins. And that patience paid off. The interceptions dropped, the decision-making tightened, and the production exploded. If Sanders gets a similar approach, and by all indications he will, his development could be even faster. Why? Because Shedeur's starting point is more advanced. His film shows pro-style concepts. His footwork is already NFL ready. His poise? You'd think he's been doing this for a decade. That's the bet. That's why this plan is so striking. It's not built on hope. It's built on evidence, on years of scouting, on philosophy that's already proven, on a player who's been conditioned for the spotlight, and on a coach who doesn't just adjust his quarterbacks. He designs systems for them. This isn't just an alignment of talent. It's alignment of vision, timing, and belief. You can't fake that. You can't manufacture it. And the implications go far beyond Cleveland. Because if this pairing works, if Monken can take what he learned in Baltimore and apply it to a different quarterback with different strengths, it sets a new standard for how franchises approach the position. It says, don't chase prototypes. Don't conform to systems. Build with purpose, draft with commitment, and develop with patience. That's the real story behind the leak. Not just a headline, but a blueprint. And it might be the smartest thing the Browns have done in a generation. What's your take? Does the Monken-Shedeur plan signal the dawn of something real in Cleveland? Or are we staring down another overhyped quarterback saga in waiting? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like if you're rooting for the Browns to finally break the cycle. Share this with fellow NFL skeptic. And subscribe if you want to stay ahead of the curve as this unfolds. Because one way or another, 2026 is coming. And the Browns might finally be ready for it. Let's keep it going, because this story hasn't hit its final twist yet. What the Monken-Shedeur-Sanders leak really exposes is a deeper shift in how the Cleveland Browns are thinking, operating, and maybe for the first time in decades, planning. This isn't a panic draft. It's not a wild trade. It's a strategic recalibration of a franchise that's been historically reactive. What we're seeing is a proactive pivot, and it centers around one unmissable truth. Cleveland is tired of starting over. They want the guy, and this time, they think they've found him early enough to actually build something real. It's important to remember the kind of risk this represents for Todd Monken. This isn't a coach inheriting a top 5 pick and crossing his fingers. It's a coach making a long bet, staking his offensive blueprint on a player that he identified, he pursued, and he believes can be molded into a franchise quarterback. That takes conviction, because if it fails, it's not just on the front office. It's on him. But Monken's track record says he's not afraid of that. He's been in the trenches. He's coached quarterbacks with flaws. He's coached quarterbacks with pressure. And he's proven, concretely, that he knows how to extract high-level play by meeting quarterbacks where they are instead of dragging them into some outdated system. And that's where Shedeur comes in. The beauty of this alignment isn't just philosophical, it's functional. Sanders enters a league with traits Monken's system thrives on. His footwork is crisp. His timing is sharp. His anticipation? Way ahead of the curve. He doesn't need to be taught the mental part from scratch. He's already shown an ability to read full field progressions, manipulate safeties with his eyes, and hit deep outs on time. That's the kind of stuff most rookies take years to learn, if they ever do. What this means for Monken is that he doesn't have to waste precious time fixing foundational problems. He gets to start ahead of the usual curve. That opens up space to implement more complex schemes early. That accelerates trust between the quarterback and the coaching staff. And in a league where timing is everything, that edge matters more than people realize. Here's what makes the story even more dramatic. The fact that the Browns are now openly being framed, at least in analysis like this video, as willing to wait. In a league obsessed with instant gratification, especially at the quarterback position, Cleveland is reportedly taking the long road. No more plugging in the flavor of the year, QB1. No more panicking by week 4. They're willing to let Shedeur develop in a controlled, low-pressure environment that's already structured for success. And let's be clear, most franchises don't do that. They say they will, then the losses pile up, the media pressure heats up, and boom, your rookie QB is thrown into a scheme he barely understands, behind a line that can't protect him, with fans screaming for a win. That's how promising careers are crushed before they even begin. But this time, if the leak holds true, Monken isn't going to let that happen. His whole coaching framework is about quarterback ecology, not just scheme, not just mechanics, but environment. That means reps are structured, installed timelines are thoughtful, and mistakes are treated as developmental opportunities, not job-threatening disasters. And that's exactly the kind of environment Shedeur's already familiar with. Playing under Deion Sanders wasn't just about having access to high-level coaching. It was about operating inside a media hurricane. Every game was analyzed, every throw critiqued, every headline dissected, and through all of it, Shedeur remained measured, focused, in command. That's not accidental. That's what it looks like when a quarterback is conditioned for high-stakes leadership before he ever enters a pro facility. Monken sees that. He knows that when you strip away the noise and focus on what really matters, timing, trust, intelligence, discipline, Shedeur doesn't just check the boxes. He's ahead of schedule. This is also why the video's core thesis hits so hard. This isn't a quarterback entering the league looking for direction. This is a quarterback walking into a building with direction already waiting for him. The plan isn't just to develop him. It's to develop the team around him. Systematically. Strategically. You can't understate how rare that is in the NFL. Usually, it's the opposite. Quarterbacks are expected to conform to whatever's already there. And when it doesn't work, they're labeled a bust. Their confidence shatters. And the team resets again. It's exhausting. And it's preventable. What Monken's doing here, if the insider story pans out, is designing an exit ramp from that vicious cycle. He's building an offensive architecture that doesn't just accommodate Shedeur, it prioritizes him. That means teaching coverages through quarterback reads. That means building route concepts that play off Shedeur's strengths in timing and ball placement. That means calling games with rhythm, not randomness. And maybe most importantly, it means giving the quarterback responsibility and ownership early, not just dumping a playbook on his lap and hoping he figures it out, but inviting him into the construction of the offense. That kind of collaboration is rare, but when it works, it changes everything. So, when people talk about this plan as bold or even risky, what they're really describing is unfamiliarity. Because most NFL teams don't commit like this. They hedge. They overthink. But Monken's approach says something else entirely. Trust the evaluation. Trust the process. And once you've found your guy, build around him with intention, which brings us to the Browns context. This franchise has had everything but intention at quarterback. They've had talent. They've had hype, but they've lacked a through line. a developmental philosophy that connects coach, quarterback, and system. If Shedeur becomes QB1 in 2026 under Todd Monken, and this plan actually unfolds the way this analysis predicts, then the Browns will have achieved something they haven't in decades: quarterback continuity. Not a name on a jersey for 2 years, but a real foundation. And the rest of the league should pay attention, because this could signal a shift in how elite quarterback development happens. Not just through elite athleticism, but through elite planning, through a multi-year timeline, through a coach who actually understands what it means to steward talent, not just evaluate it. It could also blow open the doors on how quarterback prospects are treated pre-draft. That early offer Monken gave Sanders, despite knowing he wasn't ready to start, says a lot. It says Monken was willing to wait for the right guy, to be patient, to build a relationship, not just a depth chart. And that rejection from Sanders, that wasn't hubris. It was clarity. He wasn't ready to compromise. He believed in his path. And that mutual respect, that patience from both sides, is what made this alignment even possible now. That's what sets this apart from every other quarterback storyline. No force fits. No short-term fixes. Just two people, one player, one coach, who understand each other's goals and are finally in a position to chase them together. So when 2026 comes, and if Shedeur Sanders is taking the field in a Browns uniform as the unquestioned starter, it won't be a surprise. It won't be a Cinderella story. It'll be the natural result of long-range planning, real conviction, and an organization finally doing what so many others refuse to do. Think ahead. Let's bring it home. Because after everything we've walked through, one thing is crystal clear. If this Monken Shedeur Sanders plan plays out, it won't just rewrite the Browns' quarterback history. It could change how we talk about long-term quarterback development in the NFL, period. This is a team that's been burned so many times by short-term thinking that it almost became part of their identity. Draft the hot name, rush him into a dysfunctional offense, cross your fingers, and when it doesn't work, start over, again, and again, and again. But now, this leak suggests a pivot so deliberate, so radically patient, that it almost feels foreign in today's league. What we're talking about isn't just giving Shedeur Sanders the reins. It's designing an entire offensive blueprint around him before he even steps on the field. That level of forethought doesn't just signal belief. It signals institutional alignment. And for Cleveland, that's rare air. Look at the timeline. Monken reaches out during the draft process, not on a whim, but with a purpose. He's not waiting for the scouting consensus. He's not looking to be reactive. He's initiating contact because he already knows what he sees in Shedeur. He knows this isn't just a decent prospect. It's someone who mirrors the exact qualities that make his system work. The offer was clear. Join the team, learn the system, grow into the role. But Shedeur says no, not out of disrespect, but out of clarity. He's not chasing a roster spot. He's betting on himself to start. And Monken doesn't take that as rejection. He takes it as confirmation that this is a player who's not afraid of pressure, not afraid to stake his own name on his trajectory. So what does Monken do? He waits. He watches. He continues to evaluate not just stats or highlight plays, but the nuances, how Sanders handles blitzes, how he adjusts protections, how he recovers from mistakes, how he controls tempo. These are the details that don't always make headlines, but win games. These are the things that separate a quarterback who survives from a quarterback who leads. And when Monken gets hired by the Browns, the pieces start to click. He's not just the offensive coordinator anymore. He's the architect, the one who gets to choose the blueprint. And the quarterback he's been tracking for years just happens to be entering the league at the perfect time. That's not a coincidence. That's timing. And timing matters. Because by 2026, the Browns aren't just looking for another new face of the franchise. They're looking for continuity. They want a system that lasts longer than a single season. A plan that doesn't collapse the moment adversity hits. And Shedeur Sanders, backed by a coach who already understands every piece of his skill set, is the centerpiece of that continuity. What's especially wild about this narrative is how much it pushes back on the status quo. Think about it. How often do teams commit to a quarterback before the media consensus does? How often do we see a coach willing to align his legacy with a player who hasn't been drafted yet? who turned him down, and who doesn't check every traditional scouting box. It's a rare kind of conviction. And it's the exact kind of conviction that's been missing in Cleveland for far too long. And let's not gloss over what makes Shedeur different. He's not walking into the NFL with raw mechanics and a lot of maybe. He's polished. His footwork is already pro level. His ability to go through reads, crisp. His understanding of timing, touch, and throwing windows, years ahead of the average rookie. You combine that with Monken's system, a scheme rooted in giving the quarterback tools to manipulate defenses, not just survive them, and you get a quarterback who can do more than manage games. You get one who can control them. Monken's not here to just replicate what he did in Baltimore. He's here to refine it. With Lamar, he showed how you could build around movement, creativity, and gradually elevate a passer into one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league. With Shedeur, he sees a chance to reverse the order. Start with an advanced passer, layer mobility, and run an offense that can shred defenses with structure, not just improvisation. That's what makes this potential pairing so dangerous. They're not just aligned in style. They're aligned in philosophy, in approach, in mindset, and the Browns, of all teams, might finally have the infrastructure to support it. Because this isn't a team starting from scratch. The defense is elite. The core roster is strong. The only missing piece? Offensive clarity. Quarterback leadership. A system that doesn't change every season or shift depending on who's holding the clipboard. Monken gives them that. Sanders gives them the on-field execution. If this leak is true, then Cleveland isn't waiting for lightning to strike. They're building the storm from the ground up. And if that works, then for the first time in over 2 decades, the Browns won't just be contenders on paper. They'll be a franchise with a quarterback, a coach, and a vision that finally lines up. What you're seeing here is what every fan base wants to believe in but rarely gets to see. A real, actual plan. One built on trust. One backed by coaching evidence. One that values development over desperation. That's why this video hit a nerve. It's not just another rumor. It's the kind of inside-out logic that makes people look twice. Because it's not crazy. It's calculated. And it fits. Shedeur Sanders is entering the NFL not as a guess, not as a gamble, but as a player who has already been vetted by the coach he's about to work under. There's no, let's see how it goes. There's, we know exactly what we're doing. That confidence, that's what changes culture. The Browns have waited decades for a quarterback they could build around. They may have finally found him. And this time, they didn't stumble into it. They planned for it. So now it's your turn. Are you seeing what we're seeing? Is this the pairing that finally breaks the Browns' quarterback curse? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you're rooting for this new era. Share this with someone who's been riding the Cleveland roller coaster. And subscribe for more deep dives into the wildest stories in football. Because if Monken and Sanders deliver on this vision, Cleveland won't just have a quarterback. They'll have a future.